everybody, and welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy Filangieri. I'm David Friedman, and I want to thank you for coming along this ride with us. How are we doing today, Coach?
We're doing good, Dave. How about you?
Everything's good in the hood over here. Excited to talk to you again. It's been a little bit. So I know our last show where we talked about the tryouts, holding tryouts and all that, I thought that show came out great. I know our listenership has gone up quite a bit. We had a huge response the first week we released that one. So hopefully everybody got a lot out of that and came back to join us again.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I think that was a great show. Perfect timing as it is that time of year. And look, I hope we were able to give everyone out there some information that'll help them with their tryouts. I mean, I think one of the things, I know I said it at the end of the show, but I really think if everybody does their homework, this whole thing will be a better experience for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and it really from both sides, both the coaching side and the player and parent side, because there's a lot of good out there. There's a lot of not so good out there, and we want to try to help point everybody in the right direction. So that worked out really well. We are officially at the end of the summer here. So you want to talk a little bit more? You did a little bit last week, but talk a little bit more about your end of season wrap up. I know you had a tournament and then you had another special doubleheader. You want to get into some of that?
Sure. We finished up in Diamond Nation, and I think that tournament was really a snapshot of how the season kind of went, where we went 0-3. However, there were a lot of bright spots. We didn't get hammered in any game. They were all 1-2 run losses, but sometimes they played well, sometimes they didn't play so well. And I just believe that after finishing up the season, looking back on the team, that I think as a whole, the team developed. There's that word again, developed during the season. And I think that they are better baseball players now than they were in January. And hopefully it helps them in their career as they move forward.
Yeah, I mean, that as coaches, that should be our ultimate goal. It's not all about getting the trinkets, although it's nice to get those once in a while, but it is about, you and I hammer down every single show, player development. And when you have kids at different levels on the same team, it's tough. If you're putting out just a team of superstars, that's one thing. But when you have a team where there are distinct different levels out there and you're struggling a little bit, at least to be able to see that tangible progress by the end of the year, the record doesn't matter. It's the same thing like Springer talks about, a friend of the show, Steve Springer, talks about with the batting average. Batting average is such a misnomer. Guy can hit an absolute rocket up the middle and the pitcher just happens to stick his glove up and catch it. His batting average goes down. He hits a ball that, one of the things from movie Major League, well, you really hit the shit out of that one. A little blooper, a little dinker that just happens to be in between the third baseman and the pitcher, a full swing bunt type of thing. Your batting average goes up. Which would you rather see every week as a coach? You want to see that rocket line drive as much as you want to have the kid on first any way you can. But it's
Absolutely.
the same thing. It's the same thing with the record. If you wanted to go and play in just, minuscule tournaments where you knew that you were a higher level, or if the league that you're in, and we've talked about this before, they set up different tiers and you want to play down every week and you want to have an undefeated season so you could throw that on a banner or something, good on you. But how much better did those kids get playing kids that were always a year younger than them or what have you?
Right. And that's always the question. I mean, at least that's the question I use is, did my players get better? I believe that this season, their baseball IQ went up, which was, and I hate to say it, but it was almost non-existent when I started with them. So their baseball IQ, their talent level went up. Their hitting was better. They understood situational, I can go down the whole list. Are they superstars? Of course not. But they are better baseball players at 15 than they were at 14. And that's the goal.
Yeah, and that's it. And then it's a matter of also, that's something that is almost sure to keep their attention for next year in terms of wanting to come back and play again.
Sure.
And because if you don't have a winning season, and again, this is not a visual podcast, but if I'm putting the air quotes up. If you don't have a record-wise winning season, it wouldn't surprise you under most circumstances to see a bunch of the kids not come back to that team or what have you, not come back at all, getting discouraged from playing. But if they are feeling that progress and they know how proud of as a coach, how proud you are of them, which knowing how you talk to your players, I'm sure they all know that. I'm sure they've all gotten that drilled in many times. Yes. And hopefully they all come back, and that's what we talk about. It's about getting them to come back and progress even more.
Yeah. Last night I was actually at a tryout, and there were players there from my last 3 seasons. And let me tell you something, Dave. When you go there and your players all come up to you, they're all high-fiving you, they're laughing, they're joking. Hey, remember when coach did this? Hey, remember when we did that? And they're laughing and having a good time. You know what? There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling. I know that when these kids played for me, they had fun, they learned the game, and really, what else is there?
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm very happy to hear that. And then you finished up with something that was in the works for quite a while. I think you started working on it. We were talking about it because I happen to know the coach of the other team. Somebody I went to high school with and was friends with. But you spent some time with a team from Canada, finishing up with a doubleheader. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So back in February, I received a phone call that asked me if I would like to set up a game with the Vaughan Vikings out of Canada. And I jumped on it right away and, spent a decent amount of time setting it up. And there were a couple of curves thrown in there that made it a little difficult. But in the end, we got together. It was August 16th with the Vaughan Vikings and played a game at Bard College, which, if you've never seen that field, Dave, I'm telling you, it is a beautiful complex they have at Bard College. And thank you to Andy Salvatore, the head coach there. And he was the one that let us use the field to make it such a great event.
Well, that's great, because Bard is not one of those colleges that you think of off the top of your head in terms of the local baseball, strength baseball teams. And I don't know that much about them. Maybe they are, but you don't think of it. I know they're in a great area. They're in a beautiful area in Upper Dutchess County there, but you don't think of them as a baseball powerhouse where you would necessarily, that's a field I want to go see. So that's great that both they have the facility, and that, to me, they did the right thing in helping somebody in their community to put together an event like this.
Yeah. And Bard is one of those colleges that falls into the category of it's a highly competitive academic school. So makes it a little bit harder for them player wise, because, your GPA and your SAT scores and all your academic stuff have to be at such a high level that, it cuts down on a lot of the players that they may want to go after. They may not be able to because of that. But yeah, their program is up and coming. They're doing real well. Their head coach, Andy Salvatore, is actually a local guy. He graduated from Arlington High School. And before the game, he came over to me and he said, "Hey, coach, do you mind if I talk to the players a little bit before you start?" And I said, "Are you kidding? That would be fantastic." So he spent, maybe 5-10 minutes talking to the players about what's really important. And again, he stressed academics and talked about body language and all of the things that college coaches look for. And I thought it was great that he actually, showed up to the field and took enough interest in it that he wanted to speak to the boys. And I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool, because these kids are 14, 15. I know that it was a 14U team, but of course now half the kids are probably 15. So they're right at that ripe age where they need to be hearing this kind of stuff, because if they do have any ideas, plans of playing ball in college, they need to know this stuff.
Right, exactly. And then as far as the Vaughan Vikings go, head coach Danny Carrozza was fantastic. We, have become friends now through this because we were communicating so much from February till August. And what a great guy, what a great coach. Everything it was just a wonderful experience. I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, that's great to hear. And a great shout out to the Vaughan Vikings. They're from Ontario, Canada. So hopefully they, will get some more listeners up in the Great White North. I know we have a decent presence in Canada. This can only help. But it was nice. I unfortunately, the week that you guys were playing, because I had all intentions of going and seeing him. I haven't seen Danny in a couple of years. As week I actually got COVID, so I was not going out, even though it was outdoors. That was like the day that you were playing. That was the worst day that I had it, and there was just no way that I could get up there. And I'm really sorry that I missed it from a number of reasons. Because I also, I was curious to see, and I don't know if you have any opinion on this, but they're coming from such a different area than where we are. And I mean, it was a small snapshot. It was 2 games in one night that you played, but did you see anything that was markedly different in their kind of their pregame or during the game, their approach, how they dealt with situation? Was there anything, distinctly different in their methodologies than what you're used to seeing?
I have to say, Dave, that there really wasn't. They played the game. I mean, baseball is baseball. I mean, yeah, I know that there are certain cultural differences, say, between the way the United States plays it versus Japan, as we talked with Peter Caliendo about. But no, I'll be honest with you. Everything was pretty much the way we do it.
Okay. And that's not a big surprise, like you said, because baseball is baseball. So at the end of the day, you hope it all really probably just boils down more to the coach and the organization and what their philosophy is, more than the geographic territory that a team comes from. And we see that. I don't know if you've been watching the Little League World Series. You see that there too, where you're just not seeing a lot of differences from teams that are from wildly different places. And again, you talk about Canada versus America, and you can't even really say that because it's just 2 teams. So it's not like they represent everybody from Canada and you represent everybody from America. That'd be ridiculous. But I was just curious to see if there was anything even, just with their general approach. And judging by the outcome of the game, I guess you guys split, right? So each team won a game. So that's a good thing. Both teams can, some people say that stinks. It's like kissing your sister because you're tying. But in reality, again, if it's all about the kids, then that's a good thing. Both teams can kind of go home moderately happy, at least, and have things that they're proud of and things that they know they need to work on. And that's youth baseball.
Exactly. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. The fact that we split was, I mean, really, I don't think it could have been any better outcome. You wouldn't want to see one of us slaughter the other one, terribly. It was good. Everybody had walked away, like you said, with a good feeling.
And shook hands after the game, and we're ready to go on to the next event, right?
Well, not only did we shake hands, but after the game, we arranged to have some pizza brought in. So, once the games were over, we all hung out. The boys were all together, and they were having pizza, and they were talking, and we put together little, we'll call them goodie bags for them, and they did the same for us, and they exchanged different things from their area and our area. And it was a really, really nice happening.
Okay, nice. That's really nice to hear. Well, switching directions on you here a little bit, let's start talking about this week's guest. We are very happy to have with us gentleman Eric Wubbena. He's going to get into who he is and why he's here. One of the things I want to circle back to that you just brought up about when you spoke with the head coach from Bard College, you were talking about how they're an up and coming team. Again, not a team that we think of as a baseball sports powerhouse. They are a very good academic team, and about how because of those standards being so high, they're not necessarily going to get all the best sports recruits because of those academic restrictions. That is something that you and Eric spoke about a little bit on the show. I think it's a great tie-in, and I'm very excited to bring in Eric.
Guys, nice to be on the show. I appreciate the opportunity. This is exciting.
Thanks for coming, Eric. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to dive right in and give you opportunity to tell us a little bit about Baseball Blue Book, where it kind of what the origins were and where you're at with it now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. So the Baseball Blue Book is actually established in 1909. So we are over 120 years old.
You're almost as old as Jimmy. All right. I couldn't, I can only go so long. I can only go so long. Go ahead.
I'm sure Jimmy used one of the original directories.
He was the first player. I think he was the first player on the search.
Terrible. Jimmy, I apologize. Yeah, we're just getting to know each other, and I'm already joining in. I apologize.
No, don't apologize. It's funny.
No, it's so since 1909, it's been the most the most comprehensive coaches directory available. We obviously have not owned the business for 120 years. My parents bought it probably about 40 years ago, and it was really just a small business, in-home business, because we would still print books. And so we would sell to all of the major league teams. Every scouting department would put their order in, and it was between 40 and 100 books. And we would get the whole directory done over the Christmas break, the holiday, because we had to update the whole thing and make sure everything was accurate, print everything out. And then we were binding books throughout the Christmas break. And it was a lot of fun. It was neat to, we shared a little bit about being a Pirate fan. My brother's a big Cubs fan. So we'd get the orders from the Cubs or the Pirates, and they'd order 70 directories, and we'd get to put them in a box and ship them out to our favorite team. So it was kind of neat. We had a connection with the teams because of it. I got to know a lot of the scouts and the personnel in the major leagues. So anyway, kind of that's kind of the backstory of the Blue Book. It's really a coach's directory. We had schedules. It had all the contacts for each team, college team, professional team, and the scouts loved it because they could pick up their book and they'd refer to it as the baseball Bible, and they'd use it as kind of their planning guide as far as what they were going to do when they would hit the road and were taking a look at the players throughout the collegiate levels. Obviously, things have changed. I went and moved away and had a family, and the book continued to stay in the family, and it dwindled just like everything else from a book perspective because of the internet. And a few years ago, I had the opportunity to basically take over the business from my parents. And I have a background in software technology, and had launched some apps in the past. We're responsible for that from a technology perspective. And so called a couple buddies up that I knew from the engineering and development perspective and sales and marketing, and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And our idea was more than just a coach's directory. You could still find that information on the internet. It was really to bring a network together, a platform, and to connect all the dots in the baseball world. So it's not a recruiting app, it's a platform. So if you're a player, if you're a coach, you're a recruiter, a trainer, an agent, vendors of all sorts are building profiles and making connections. And so we refer to it as the LinkedIn for baseball. Build your baseball resume and get yourself noticed and promote yourself.
Okay, great. And so about how long ago did you, just out of curiosity, let's say, like, when was the last printed book that you actually did?
Great question. I believe it was 2019.
Okay. So just a few years ago. Obviously things,
people that didn't like it, we still had loyal customers, and they weren't real thrilled about us not printing anymore. But yeah, 2019 was the last year.
Okay. And so your transition over to fully digital. I know you were online originally, and now you're transitioning over again, kind of just the way the world goes, to just the app based. You're 100% just app based at this point, right?
We are. We have plans the first of the year to roll out a web app. We know that vendors and coaches and there's a lot of people that may not want to do business, and there's a lot of business tools on the app. They may not want to use the mobile device for that. So we'll have a web app for more administrative tasks within your profiles. But most of it right now is the app. Correct.
Okay. All right. And it's just Baseball Blue Book. That's how our That's how our listeners can find it, right? Just Baseball Blue Book. You have it for both for Apple and everything else.
We do. You can visit the website, baseballbluebook.com. Put your cell phone in there and submit it, and we'll text you a link to the download, or you could just visit it on the Apple iTunes stores or the Google Play stores. Yep.
Okay. All right, great. So, and just thinking about it in terms of something that I can kind of relate to, and it comes up this time of year, kind of the transition between the hard copy and the live, essentially, when you're online and on the app. I look at it kind of like with my fantasy football stuff. For years it was buy the magazines. Even if you bought the magazine in August, it was printed in March or something. So by the time you were going to do your research, I mean, half probably of the information was out of date. So now that we have everything live and getting updated by the day, it's got to make it so, as much as some of your clients may not have liked the transition, at the end of the day, it's got to be so much better.
Oh, absolutely. Now baseball is, I think it's unique that there's the turnover is greater than most sports. I swear, as soon as you think you have it updated, there's more changes. They're constantly changing. But yes, it was funny because you'd print the book out, and as soon as you printed it, I mean, I'll tell you, it happened every year. As soon as you printed it, you get a few colleges sending in new data, and it is what it is. Few times they were big enough collegiate programs. Some of them were big changes in some of the conferences that we would have to put a supplemental tab in there. Sure. And that's just what happens in the book industry. But like you said, all of that's behind us now, and we can go in and update as needed. It's still tough. I mean, there's 1,800 college programs. There's 10,000 players, and not players, but coaches and personnel. So it is still a daunting task. It's real time though now.
Yeah. No, that's got to be great. And then the players, so the players have the opportunity to upload their information on there as well for the coaches that are looking for the talent, right? It works from both ends.
Yeah.
So now it's more of a two-way street, whereas before it was just a directory. Now, both players can look for schools and schools can look for players, correct?
Absolutely. It was a tough transition, but people were paying a lot of money for a book that they could get all this data in from collegiate programs and major league. And it was tough going online and providing it for everyone, because now players can get on there and do a search on any college, any level. That's the cool thing about it, is the filtering. You could just filter by your state. You could pick a couple states and boom, you got all the JUCO programs right there, and then click right in. So it makes it really, really quick and easy to use. But really our focus is building out the other side. And when you say it's a coach to player relationship, we see it more than that, because we constantly have to tell people we're not a recruiting app, right? Because you get on some of these recruiting apps and within 24 hours, you're going to get some cold calls from somebody that's trying to sell you a service. That's just how they do it. We don't do that, because we are just a platform for you to store your stuff and build, like I said, or build your resume. So if you're 10 years old and you went on a tournament, you got stats, put those in, got a couple videos that you have that you like, good highlights, you put them in. Then by the time you're 12, all that information's still in there. You continue to add. Coaches love it because they see progression. They can go and look at you at 12 and they can see at 15. Are you better or not? That's a big thing. There's a lot of technology out there with Rapsodo and different devices out there. They all have their own proprietary profiles. So what are you going to do with that Rapsodo score? You can throw it in the Baseball Blue Book just with everything else that you have. So it's just a compilation of everything that you've done from a baseball. And then we've got vendors in there. Vendors have no idea how to market to the players and coaches. They use the social platforms, but there's 100 million users and there's only 15 million that you're trying to target. So you got kind of get lost in the fray. We're baseball only. You're on there. You're a player or a parent of a player. or someone that has to do with baseball.
So when you say that there's vendors in there also, so you're talking about like bat manufacturers and glove manufacturers and stuff like that. So you can actually go on there if you're looking for a specific piece of equipment, and you can find it on the app also.
Exactly. And the great thing about that is the vendors give us discounts. So you get discount codes by being a member of the Baseball Bluebook. So they'll have a coupon code of 15% off or 25% off. And what we're working on, which next year we'll release, is you'll be able to buy that right through our app. So not only a LinkedIn type app, it'll be also kind of an Amazon type app. But yeah, your woodback manufacturer, they're great because they are very obscure. I always call them they're the microbreweries of baseball. They all have their own unique little spin. They're all localized, but they're also trying to grow. And so it's a great platform for them to reach territories and people that may have never heard of their bat. And there's a lot of really cool bats out there.
So it's been, what's it been now? It's been 3 years since you've gone electronic, or 4?
No, actually, the app launched in March this year.
Oh, really? So it's that new?
It is very, very new, but it's growing significantly, which is very exciting. But it's word of mouth right now. It's word of mouth, organic. Our posts we're working with some associations, some high school teams, high school associations, because it's free. It's a perfect tool for every kid. As soon as they pick up a glove and a ball, they might as well build a profile and just have a place that they can capture their experiences and their highlights. But yes, the last few years we tinkered with a web app only. So we had something that you could go in there, but players don't use computers, so you need it on a mobile app, and it takes a little bit more time to build a mobile app the right way. And we spent a couple of years really building it out so that it can handle the influx of players that we're starting to see. And I'm glad that we did it that way.
So you say, I mean, it's been a very short time, but you say that the reception, it's been received well. Is that right?
It has. We've got over 300 vendors on there. We have all the coaches, which is great. Now that doesn't mean the coaches have actually built their own profile yet, but the coaches' information's in there just as it would be as a profile. We've got over 5,000 players, and that's just since March. So we're growing really, really quick. And we have to focus on the technology, make sure it scales and it provides what the players are needing. And it's been great. We get great feedback. Right now is a perfect time. Anybody that's in technology knows that you never have a completed product. It's always changing. I always laugh at what Facebook looked like just a few years ago. It's not even the same platform anymore, but it's people start adopting it, and then we get a lot of great feedback. Players are great. We have an open communication. There's DM in there, so we get to DM the players directly from our app, and we get feedback real time. And so we take that into consideration and put it into our plan to continue features.
So one of the things that I tell all my players when they're thinking about, well, not when they're thinking about, but when they're ready to start figuring out where they want to play baseball after high school, the first thing that I tell them is you have to find a school you can get into academically. So does the app afford you the option to say, put in your GPA and your SAT scores and it'll spit out schools?
Great question. It does allow you to put in your academic components. Right now, we are partnering with a company that provides the ability to do just that. So there's some softwares out there that does it from that perspective. So it'll basically look at your academic scores or your grades. It will also look at where you're located, because we have a preferred school or preferred state component, so you can select that. And then it will spit out the schools that have available positions with available scholarships that meet your criteria. So that's going to be something that we're going to launch the first of the year, which we're really excited about, because we know that that's very, very important. You've got to eliminate all of the schools that don't make sense first, because you don't want to waste your time or theirs.
Exactly.
Sure. I mean, with the 10,000 colleges out there, it's you want to start to narrow that funnel down a little bit before you really start driving yourself crazy.
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. So that's why we built this all on filtering and sorting. So it's all a big database. So we can take the data, we can present it whatever way that people want it. Right now, the other thing that the coaches side is they'll be able to put in their criteria. So coaches may have certain criteria that's beyond just the school. And so he can go ahead and say, I'm looking for this type of player from this place. Maybe it's a vlog, it could be a velocity thing. It could be, whatever he's looking at. If the player has the data in our app, you can sort it and filter it. And so those notifications will go right out to the coaches to say, hey, there's 5 players that meet your criteria right in the Jersey area, right? So here's the list of those players.
And is it from the player's perspective, in addition to putting in stats, they can put up videos and some media of their own? So it really reinforces, because obviously anybody can throw some numbers in there. I'm throwing 110 miles an hour this year.
Yeah, no, certainly that is an issue, but you know what? Just being the platform, we encourage videos. So our platform supports as many videos as you want, and we will keep it forever. So you'll be able to keep that in there as long as you have an active membership and a profile. Then we've got your data, and we're storing it for you to keep it safe.
All right, well, that sounds excellent. Anything else that you want to bring up about the app itself? I mean, it sounds like you made a real, as seamless as possible transition from the hard copy book into using the technology, which, as I said, it has to be way better. Ultimately, once you get over the mental aspect of I want a book in my hand, it's got to make things so much easier for both the players and the coaches and the vendors, as you said. Sounds like a great marriage.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd say is, there's multiple reasons for you to be in the app, and we focus a lot on getting players in there, and building your resume. Right, that's kind of our main message, because the players need a place, right? And again, we're not charging players either. This is a totally free app. We make our money on the back end in promotion of the vendors and different ways. But the players didn't cost you anything. So we focus on that. But the parts that I think people miss is the actual beginning of the whole baseball blue book, right? We still have this full directory that is as comprehensive as anything out there. So you can sit there on your mobile app, and if you're looking, oh crap, you know what? I forgot that the assistant coach's cell phone or email address from wherever. You can pull it up on the app, do a search, find that person. You can email them right there from the phone. You can call them. So we've got all the cool features that you have with any of your other mobile apps. You click on the phone number and it brings it up, and you can dial it right there. Same with the email. So we've got all the cool social platform features. But yeah, it's hard to. People lose sight in certain things. It's like, well, I'm not a player or whatever, or no, I'm not this. It really is a network of everybody, and really just trying to find what you're looking for. And we've got recruiters in there. Training. The training side is one of my favorite. We've got trainers from all over the country that are looking to sell their training, and they don't know how to do it. Right? They're selling it in their own training facility, but they've got some great videos because of COVID. They're making some good money, but they want to really expand that. So we work with trainers all the time for content, and we provide a content side and the directory and the profile. So there's a whole lot of things for people to check out and see what fits their need.
So you say that the app is completely free. There is no, again, this is for the players. There's no premium something or other where
subscription service, nothing.
Right, well, where they would have to pay for anything.
Absolutely. There is no cost. So I want to make sure I preface this. We will be coming out with a premium membership that will have some additional features and capabilities that we don't have right now, but the app today, if you're a coach, a vendor, a trainer, a player, I don't care who you are, it's 100% free. And the features that you have in it right now will always be 100% free. So it's like LinkedIn. LinkedIn, there are some premium services. If you need them, you buy them. But you can be on LinkedIn forever and it will never cost you anything. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. So from a recruiter's, tell us a little bit about how like a recruiter would use this app.
Great question. Recruiters, they're trying to find players, and a recruiter's typically a few guys, maybe one person that's working, on helping players. Do they have the skill? Do they have the money to build their own platform, their own website, provide all the content, bring everything together? Or do they want to focus on the recruiting aspect? And I think that's where it's a real good marriage with a lot of these things. It's even with vendors. Do you have time and the money to go out and build an entire infrastructure to support your business, where you can leverage the platform that we built and build your business around the tools that we already have? And we work with a couple of recruiters that do just that, because we're not the best recruiters. It's a great story. Recruiters is a perfect example. LinkedIn was feared by recruiters, right? The old headhunters, because people were going to LinkedIn, putting their resume and finding their jobs out there. Well, recruiters had to change kind of their mindset. They had to go in there and start promoting their services on LinkedIn, because they knew it was a perfect marriage, because that's where everybody was looking for a job. So where else would you want to go if you're a recruiter? I say the same thing for this. These players are there promoting themselves. It's a perfect place for a recruiter to go in there and show what they can do and promote themselves and sell their services right on the platform. And I think it's a great thing. So we encourage recruiters to be part of it.
Oh, well, that sounds excellent. Sounds like I said before, a happy marriage between the technology and the human aspect of it, kind of a one-stop shopping. If you're a player going on now, you said you have some younger players that can put their stuff up there, but I would imagine the bulk of your target audience is more of the teen, starting to get into the mid-teens, prior to, like Jimmy said, getting ready to start your search for that next level.
I think what that is, David, is really, there are different times and different seasons for different actions and activities. So when you get to 15, 16, 17, you're starting to look at schools. And so the Bluebook's perfect for that, because you got the directory. But when you're 8, 9, 10, you just want to have fun. You want to promote, you want to highlight yourself. You want to watch videos. I mean, we got a streaming feed that's just a whole bunch of highlight videos of kids that are posting their cool stuff. So it's fun to just watch. I've got 8, 9, 10-year-olds that the moms will have a profile, and they'll post their kids playing t-ball. It's a place, and it will always be there. So when they turn 12 and they start getting more serious and they're looking for travel teams, or they're looking for other events, they can come to the Bluebook and find those. And then when they get to 15, 16 and they start looking for colleges, they got all their stuff in the Bluebook from the last 5, 6 years, and now they just change their activities, and now they're looking for colleges, and they're actively reaching out. And so I think it's just a great, we like the journey. One of the things that I talk on my podcast all the time is the journey. Start at the beginning. How did your journey start? And that's the same. That's where the baseball Bluebook. We want your journey to start there, and that's you should be putting everything that you do when it comes to baseball in the baseball Bluebook.
So something that you just said rang a bell. You had said that maybe a younger kid, 12, 13, whatever, looking for a travel team. So there are travel organizations that are in there also?
We allow it. What we do, we do it 2 different ways. We do it the old school way, which is the way we've done it for 100 years, is when we go out and if we know who they are, they're in the book. So if we can find you, we put you in our directory. I don't care if you're a travel team, if you're an event and a showcase, or you're a professional team. It could be a professional team that has no links to anything. We'll have you in the book if we can find you. And that flips it. If you find us, we'll put you in. You can build your own profile. If you're an organization out there that you're just starting up or you're a men's league, you can build a profile and have in there, contact us, and we'll put you in the directory. So there's two sides of it. There's the directory that we control. We want to make sure that's as accurate as possible. It's all the schools, all the major leagues. And it's really to me, it's the yellow pages. The other side is your own personal profile. So you can put it in there. You can promote yourself. You can promote your association or organization through the profile side. And then we can also put you on the directory side. So it's two different sides for people to find you, communicate with you. When you're in the profile, you can direct message, so you can reach out to people. They can reach out to you. So I think long answer is, that was the long answer. Short answer is, we'll put you in if you contact us or if we find you. If you're baseball related, you're in the book.
So how do you determine, or how do you guard against information being put in there that's not accurate? So in other words, I'm a player, I put in there that I run a sub 760. How do you know that's accurate?
We don't. We control the directory, and there's people can put whatever they want, just like any other social platform. We basically review a lot of things. We have a place that you can report things, you can block. So there's a lot of ways that we've gone through to protect people by providing those features. But the other thing is, when we know we control the directory, we do a lot of verification, right? It's EDUs from a collegiate perspective, from emails on the information. We know who we're talking with. Most colleges know who we are, and they've been working with us for years and years and years. So we know that the information is accurate. But on the profile side, it is what it is. We're hoping it's just like a resume. You can lie on your resume, and if they're interested, you're gonna get caught. Well, yeah, probably a good lesson for kids. That, if you're listening to this and you're a kid, there's no reason to fudge any stats. It's all out there anymore.
Yeah, because what prompted me to ask that question was, I've seen it where, I've had players that have played for me on my high school team, and then during the summer when they're on a travel team, it's amazing how they went from a 200 hitter to a 600 hitter in a month and a half, and I'm like, I don't see how that happened, but and they plastered it all over social media. So, granted, you'd be very foolish to fudge those numbers because you're going to get exposed sooner or later, but it does happen.
Jimmy, the other thing that we do is we partner with some of the technology companies out there. And so we have integrations with them. So for example, you could have I don't know, Rapsodo is probably the one I talk about the most because it's a score, but that score is it's in their database. Well, the integration with Rapsodo allows us to pull that score into our profile. So if it has a legitimate certified Rapsodo score on there, that it's the score that came from them versus somebody just manually entering it. There's a lot of things and ways that we can do it. And part of our, kind of the season that we're in right now is really getting our name out there and working with companies. But one of the things that I think would be great is like a game changer with actual stats. They've got the stats, so why not open up the API and just push it into a profile? Now all of a sudden all the stats are in there. Those are things that you can do that all day long in technology. I've been doing it for 20 years with it, and baseball's a little closed right now. So we're out there preaching the gospel of open and accessibility technology. So
right. The only problem that I would see with pushing the game changer numbers in, and this is something that happens all the time, is it all depends on who's actually inputting that data.
True. It's going to come down to there's somebody doing it, right? So you gotta take with what take every result, and that's why people are still important in the game of baseball. I always say that all this technology should be validation of what we already know or what we've already seen.
Exactly.
Right. So the guy's a good pitcher. I just didn't know he threw 92 miles per hour. Right. The gun showed me 92, but I already knew he could throw heat. So
right. Yeah, no, because we run into problems, and Dave and I have discussed this before with Game Changer, where people are still hung up with the fact that nobody really cares if a 13-year-old player made an error on, July 6th in 2022. Nobody cares. But yet, parents, and let's face it, a lot of times I know in my case, I give that game changer to a parent and I say, here, run with it. Because again, to your point, I know what I'm looking at. I don't really need those stats. I very rarely even look at them, but it's a way to keep score, keep pitch counts. And, this way I don't abuse my pitchers and stuff. I can use that data for that reason, but I could see, a parent thinking, hey, this data from the game changer is going into the Bluebook app. Geez, I better not give my son an error on that. I better make that. And
right. And all the parents sitting next to that parent, with the same type of influence. And like, oh, that wasn't an error. That was a hit. Come on now.
No, that's, you can get dangerous with some of those things, but a great story you just brought up with that, the game changer and giving it to parents at an earlier age. I used to ump high school games. And I remember the very first time that I did it with my brother. He and I were the pair, and we'd travel around and do high school games. But the very first game that we ever did was a JV game. And it was a JV game of the teams that were not very good. Well, we just came out, with our tests, and we were ready to go with all our new equipment. I mean, we were it, right? No matter what level we were doing it at. And I remember the coaches, like third inning, came over and had a meeting with us and said, this is JV. We don't need to call this tight of a strike zone, right?
Oh yeah.
I get it.
Actually, both Dave and I coach at the JV level, and believe me, usually it's the other way. It's like you want to tighten it up a little bit, just a little.
Yeah.
Oh, you would have loved us then, boy. We were calling it tight. I mean, it was walk after walk too. It was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of a know your audience type of situation there.
Well, we learned real quick. Trust me.
So speaking of knowing your audience, let's change directions a little bit here. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast that you've got going. Again, same title, right? The Baseball Bluebook podcast. And how did that come about?
You know what? It was my co-founder's idea. I'm a big podcast guy. My wife and I like to listen to podcasts, and it's all we've been talking about for years. And my co-founder said, why aren't you doing a podcast yourself? I said, I can't do that. I don't, I'm a sales guy, so I could talk to anybody, but I just don't really want to do that. So I put it off for a while, and then I finally started doing it. The bottom line, it's been the best thing for the business because there's no better way to meet new people and build relationships. It's bottom line. Like I'll see you, I could see you guys at a restaurant next week, and I could talk to you like we've known each other for years. And I think that's what podcasts do. I built, I think I've had 70 podcasts now over the last year and a half. And I know them all. We talk, they're from bat companies to, I've had recruiters on, coaches, anybody that wants to get on, really. I had a guy on from Sabre, from Old Stats, and the guy actually he got on because I think he had 100 of our books, the Baseball Blue Books. And so this huge library, and it was fun for me to talk to. And I don't know if anybody else enjoyed it, but it was fun for me to talk to him. But that's what it's all been about. It's been about networking and building relationships. And I've built some of the best relationships that I could through this, in building and bringing awareness to the Blue Book. Cause there's a negative to having the name being around for so long, because the connotation is what it was, right? It's a directory. So if you're not out there constantly promoting and talking about what we have now, there's a lot of people that don't need a directory, and I get it. So,
right. If it was just that 300-page book that now I'm reading it online instead of reading it with the book in my hand, that's a whole different ballgame than what you're doing.
Exactly. So, getting out and just preaching it. And I don't spend a lot of time. My podcasts have more to do with just, and I said this earlier about the journey. I don't care if you're a coach or almost everybody I interview, they've been part of baseball somehow. There's a few guys that I've been on that were more, I've had a couple of health guys on from certain health drinks that have been formulated just for baseball that may have not been in baseball, but 95% of the people I interview have had a journey, right? They started playing when they were young. They went through high school. They did some travel. Most of them went to college. They all have a story, and they're now 20 years later, they're still in the game of baseball. And it's fun to listen to the journey and talk to people about that. And I actually, I'm really passionate about what we have. I see our Blue Book as a way of capturing the journey of baseball. You may not be in it after 17, 18, you may never play again, but you've got a record of everything you've done. And that's, to me, that's a pretty cool thing. It's not spread out everywhere. It's in one place that you can keep. And I think that's a pretty neat thing.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Definitely. It's something, even just the nostalgia of it, of, 10 years later, being able to look back and see what you had there or whatnot. I could definitely see that. I've got piles of scorebooks in my garage from when my kids played, and they're never going to get opened again. But if it was sitting there in my hand, then that's a different story.
So the podcast, it's been a lot of fun. Let me share. Can I share a short story with you about the most recent podcast?
Sure.
So we just started this. We've done, normal podcasts. They're between 30 minutes and an hour long. I've done clips and I've started doing shorts, but the thing that I just started was something called Player 5Q. And the purpose of Player 5Q is the number of players that we now have in our book, and the number of players that I'm meeting on Twitter and social media. I'm just watching them just kind of do the best that they can from promoting themselves. So I decided to start a podcast called Player 5Q, and it was 5 questions that most coaches are going to ask you. And it's about a 10-minute interview, and we go through what got them interested in baseball, and then we go into the 5 questions, and then the last question is, what's one of your preferred schools that you're looking at that you'd love to play for? And I had the interview just last week, and he said Dominican College. He's from the Bronx. And he said, would love to played a couple games there and gone to a couple camps and really liked it. Well, within an hour of me posting the video, the assistant coach at Dominican watched the video, they connected, and I got a message from this kid that said, I just verbally committed to Dominican College.
Wow, that's fantastic.
How cool is that, right? That's just, and I asked him, I said, I hope we had something to do with that. He goes, you had everything to do with it. And it didn't cost them anything to do that. It's just a way of the Blue Book showing what we're about. We're about promotion. We're about getting your name out, doing what you can, and if we can do it and help, it's just more that we can do. Now, since then, I've had about close to 100 kids reach out. I'm going to have to weed through them now because I can't do that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess that's the double-edged sword of having a story like that, of the success. There's a limit on how many kids that can work for.
Exactly. And now, yeah. And then on Friday, I actually got to interview the coach. And so the assistant coach over there, AJ Gonzalez, he's over at Dominican. We got on a podcast and talked for a good 30, 45 minutes just about his program. And we 5 minutes about the player that they committed to, but it was good. I love talking to coaches, man. There's so much wisdom in these coaches. Some of them don't even know what they know. I mean, just get them to talk for 45 minutes and you'll pull 20 clips out that you can use for 30-second, just nuggets that they're really good. I mean, I'm always floored with listening to coaches talk. I can just sit and listen to them all day long. So
yeah, I mean, I absolutely understand that. I'm the same way. I could listen to coaches talk forever. And that's, to your point, the relationships that Dave and I have been building. This will be our 30th episode. So we've done 30 episodes in about a year and a half, which is really, by most standards, is really not a lot of shows. But the relationships that we've built with coaches and people in the baseball world, it's priceless.
Yep. Totally agree. Yeah. I think it's great. Just, they don't all go great. I've had ones that, man, they were nervous. And it's okay, because you just get them to talk about something that they're interested in and stop looking at the screen. Man, you hear just the wisdom that comes out. And then there's other ones that are fantastic, and they plow right through, and they're all just as good as the other, in my opinion. I don't, there's better ones than others, but there's no bad, right?
Yeah.
And I see that in all of them.
I feel that all coaches, regardless of what level that they coach at, they all have something that we can learn from, even if it's one little tidbit that we take from what they have to say. There's always something there you can learn.
Or we could learn on what not to do.
I try to stay as agnostic as I can on those topics. A lot of times, one of the things that I've tried to do is not bring development philosophy into the conversation, to keep from that, because you're absolutely right. You go on Twitter and I love Twitter. I mean, Twitter's that's the place to go look if there's confrontation or something that it's crazy. I don't try to bring that into the game because everybody does have their own idea. Mine is really just, they're all, hey, the thing about coaches at this level, you have to care about the kids or you wouldn't do it. I mean, that bottom line is that, in my opinion. Now, are there ones that are better than not? Yes, there are other ones. There's ones that are better than others, but I think that's really what it is hearing their story of how they got into coaching. What do they like about coaching? What are their interests are. I really try to find a different, because you guys know more about baseball than I do. I leave that to the other podcasts about, let's evaluate the last College World Series game and what was right and what's wrong. I don't, there's other ones that I'd rather listen to than listen to mine.
But to your point, you said that in order to be a coach, and again, this show is a show aimed at youth baseball, and my experience has been that there are, I don't want to say a lot, but there are enough coaches out there that, maybe their reason for doing this is not necessarily for the kids. And that's one of the things that Dave and I rail about all the time is to try and fix that, where it's not about your win-loss records. It's not about your trophies. It's about developing the players. Okay. If, again, I'll take my travel team this past summer, that I feel that from the time I took the team over in January till just 2 weeks ago, they learned an awful lot. Did we win a lot of games? No, we didn't. Did we have a lot of fun? Yes, we did. Did they learn how to play the game the right way? Yes, they did. So now, next year when they go on to another travel team or another coach or whatever, they go to their high school team, they're going to be better baseball players, and their coaches are going to have an easier time because of the things that my coaches and myself were able to get across to these kids. And that's what it has to be about. It has to be about trying to make the players better. And getting back to what we were saying a little while ago about listening to other coaches. Yeah, you don't have to agree with everything that every coach says. I mean, I don't agree with everything that every coach says. However, like I said, if you could pick and choose, and I'll use an example. So one of the coaches' clinics, I was presenting the practice planning session, and afterwards, one of the coaches, the youth baseball coach, came over to me and he said, "I don't agree with what you said." And it had to do with your practice plan. So in other words, if you're working on backhands and the boys aren't getting it and you had allotted 5 minutes to work on backhands, my philosophy is don't move off of that and go to the next thing, because let's get this right first. Let's not go to the next thing. Let's just get that right. And if we have to skip the next thing in the practice plan, we could pick it up next week or next practice, whatever. And he came over and said, "I don't agree with that." He said, I said to him, I said, "You don't have to agree. I'm not, the end all be all of baseball coaching. I'm just giving you my opinion."
Right.
So you take what you want from what I'm telling you. And that's what I do with other coaches. I'll take what whatever I need from them. And I don't agree with everything that everybody says. And I don't think anybody does. I just think that's, regardless of whether you're talking about baseball or just life in general, nobody agrees with everybody else 100% of the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. You know, it's maybe I just haven't had those guys on yet. You know, I think that's why, you know, back to the podcast, we're talking about that is the purpose. You know, I think the purposes of the podcast are different, right? That's why I enjoy banter about baseball because of the opinions. I'm an old school guy, right? I hated the new rules that came out. So I went to podcasts to listen to them fight and bicker about the new rules versus the old rules. I like that. In the purpose and motivation of my podcast, although I would like to do that because I enjoy arguing, I try not to bring that into this because it's just the purpose of the podcast is a little bit different. So, I think there's a few that I've had on there that we've got into discussions, but not more than that. So it really is about the coach or it's about the player. If they want to say that all they care about is wins and losses, I'll let them say it. It's a good platform for them to say it. And that may not be a good thing for them to say, but maybe they don't care. And I think that's kind of my right. I don't know. That's what I see more. But they don't care what other people think. They're doing it for them.
Right. But that's interesting. So in other words, what you're doing is you're looking at it as just taking, regardless of who it is, and just letting them get their message out there, which is good. I think that, Dave, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that we look at it a little different, where we want to have people on that are reinforcing the message that we're trying to get across. And it's all of these things, again, to help youth baseball.
Yeah, I mean, mostly that. I mean, we've had on some people that, just like you said before, I mean, we're not going to agree with 100% of it, but we're not looking to have a fight. I mean, maybe that would increase our listenership even more if we started getting into all these adversarial conversations, but I don't think we would enjoy it quite as much as what we've been having. So definitely not the goal of clearing the bases, but it's so, you know, Eric's podcast more providing the platform. You do with it as you will, and if you want to have a positive message, have a positive message. You want to have something else, that's up to you. And hands off. And I don't blame you for that, because like I said, if you wanted to have fights, that'd be easy.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I'm looking for it. You know, my favorite podcasts are the ones that got a good story. You know, stories are fun. People want to hear stories. I had Abraham Nunez. He's the hitting coach of the Arkansas Naturals right now, AA team for the Royals. He was my favorite player when he was the shortstop with the Pirates. And I got to have him on my podcast, and I was like a little kid. And it was the most fun that I've ever had. All he talked about was his journey through baseball and bouncing around after the Pirates. And then he loved talking about his AA team and said, man, this we've got a bunch of guys coming up that the Royals, you guys are going to be impressed in the next couple of years. It was just fun, right? Do I like the Royals? I can't stand the Royals, right? It's but he's excited, and I got to talk to one of my, heroes of when I was back in Pittsburgh, and that's the kind of ones that I'm looking for. Had some coaches that I've never met before and become good friends with them. And it's just been a lot of fun, just getting to know and being able to go to the ABCA and have people come up. And I might not remember you right away, right? Because I've done so many of them, but they'll be like, hey, that podcast was a lot of fun. And then it will click. And that's the best part of this, is giving them a platform that people love to talk about themselves. I mean, that's what that's
generally, sure.
They want.
It's funny you say about the ABCA, because this past January was the first time that I was at the convention having done the podcast, the years before the podcast wasn't around. And it was very, very interesting how many people I was talking to and rubbing elbows with. That the year before in Nashville, I didn't speak to anyone, but through the podcast, people knew who I was. And, again, just 5-minute conversations, but it's just interesting people.
Yep.
So that's what it's all about. So on that note, let's a reminder here, we're on with Eric Wubbena. He is the director, the owner of the Baseball Bluebook. He's got both the app. We want you to go out there and download the app. You can check out his podcast is both through all your normal podcast channels. You also do videos right on YouTube. So you guys can check that out. How do people get in touch with you if they're looking to get on the podcast or just to converse with you?
Well, the way I'd love for them to get a hold of me is build a profile in the Baseball Bluebook, and then you can DM me. I'm Eric at baseballbluebook.com for my email, but my profile on the Bluebook is just Eric Wubbena. I'm the president and co-founder of the Baseball Bluebook, and people they DM me, and then we book it. I'm on Twitter as at @bballbluebook. Very frustrating. They have limitation on characters, so it should be baseball, but fit it. So bball Bluebook on Twitter, and then it is Baseball Bluebook on Instagram. We're just starting a TikTok, and then we're on Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, so everywhere, if you punch in Baseball Bluebook, you're probably going to find them. Reach out to them. Let's see if we make a few more happy connections like you had with the story that you told us there about your player at Dominican College. That'd be great. That's huge. From our perspective, I think there's been a great conversation, Eric. We really want to thank you for coming on. I know everybody's time is valuable. Thanks for jumping on with us here today, and really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys. Really had a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. It was a great conversation.
All right. Well, there was our conversation with Eric Wubbena. Hopefully you guys found that entertaining. We want to make sure that you're going out to Baseball Bluebook. Download the app. You can check out his podcast. If you only have time for one, listen to ours. But if you have time for an extra one, you can go ahead and listen over there. As always, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and for downloading us. Spread the word out. It only helps. It helps. It helps. We can keep spreading the message. We want our listenership to keep growing like it has been. It's been great. We love hearing from you guys. Reach out to us at the CTB Show on Twitter and clearingthebases@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know if you have ideas for future shows. We're always open to that. We've got some more great guests coming up in the future, but hopefully you could get a lot out of this. So remember, the two things that we could always be in control of in our lives are our attitude and our effort. Gives PMA, positive mental attitude, 100% effort. Great things will follow. Final thoughts, Coach?
So I really enjoyed the conversation with Eric. I think that the app could be a good thing for a lot of players. Maybe there are people out there that are not sure about what colleges they want to go to. So this may be something that will be able to sort through things and point you in the right direction to make things a little bit easier for you. So I kind of like the idea. The other thing that I liked is when he spoke a little bit about his podcast, and he said that how it was building those relationships with people. And I think that that's one of our goals. And I think that that's something that's important also with the people that we have on, the relationships that we're building. And hopefully we're building relationships with our listeners. And I really think that that's what it's about. The more relationships you can build, the better off you're going to be. So with that being said, remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.